Well, good morning, afternoon, evening. Gary Turner here, founder of Hexo Change. What I wanted to do today, I've had an idea this afternoon, which has popped from nowhere, as ideas do. You can find out more in the details below this live stream. But in essence, the idea is, and I'd love to know if you'd be open to being part of this experiment, is a new practice, a new way of being, maybe even a workshop around decolonizing our minds through generative listening. That is the idea. That is the vision. And how I'm planning to go about doing that with your support is these mixture of incredible cards. So what are they? In essence, you've got a mix of Gesturing Towards Decolonial Futures, with or without modernity cards. Bought a pack of those. And there's also my thinking environment teacher, Jane Adshead-Grant, her listening coach, listening deck. So what I had this morning, this idea was, well, it's not just this morning, the last few weeks, there's been something in my body that has said to me, there is something about this getting brave, particularly us in the West, and understanding, we understand the history, of how we've got to where we are, colonialism, etc., oppression. But I know in my body that deep generative listening, helping people to think for themselves as themselves without interruption, is a critical part of the journey. So why not mix the two together? What would it look like to develop a practice, workshop, or space where we can together, individually and collectively, decolonize our minds through generative listening? And what my idea is, and again, it's all to be iterated, it's quite fresh off the plate. But my idea here is you can pick, do this virtually or in person, you can pick any three cards, okay? So you give them a shuffle, give them a nice shuffle. There's these two packs, two completely separate packs of cards. And what I now do is go, okay, pick one. I then pick a second one. And I pick a third one, okay? Totally at random. Now, what are those three cards that I've just picked? One is from Jane's listening deck. It is a listening skill, and it says, eliminate distractions. So turn off all your notifications, conceal your phone, close your laptop. So that's the first consideration for this exploration. The second thing is one of the De-Colonial Futures cards. And this one, okay, you can see that. So this one says, what cultural ignorances do you continue to embody, and what social tensions are you failing to recognize? Okay. And then the third one is this one is a listening bias from Jane's listening deck, and it's the pretender. So you pretend to listen, not really engaged, not interested in what the other is saying, thinking, or feeling. Your eyes glaze and your mind is elsewhere. So the invitation is, in either as an individual person, but ideally in groups of three, is that you have a thinker who has 5 minutes of uninterrupted space to be able to share what's on their heart and mind, following having those three cards. So a blend of eliminating distractions, the pretend listening, and what cultural ignorances do you continue to embody, and what social tensions you're failing to recognize. So through those three cards, you would have one person that holds a space, holds that soft gaze, as Jane says, is there holding space with the thinker. Okay, so saying nothing for 5 minutes. And then the thinker is literally, like in my case, I might be sitting here now going, oh my God, yeah, the number of times actually before the tragic murder of George Floyd, I heard about the fact that there were more Black men being murdered, but I didn't really get curious about it. So I was pretending to listen to the fact that there is that social injustice happening. And it took that murder being captured online for me to recognize it more fully. And then you can look at everyone going, actually, how often do I go into a meeting with my family or my friends or at work, and I don't eliminate the distractions? So actually, how many signals am I actually hearing about society, about our social injustice, about inequity within the workplace and outside? How often do I not sense and feel and hear those? Because I'm a combination of either pretending to listen, or I'm completely distracted by all the other things going on in my life. That's the sort of direction I could go for my 5 minutes of uninterrupted space. And sometimes there'll be silences, and that's good. And there's nobody jumps in on that silence. And what you've also got then throughout this period of time, the third person, if you have a triad, will be the observer. So they're just listening. They're just learning from this interaction, how the space is being held by the listener, and also marveling and really gaining much value from the thinker as they're meandering through in a safe, brave space held by the three of you as they go through those three cards. And then what happens is that each person rotates. So you have 5 minutes in each role, 5 minutes as thinker, 5 minutes as listener, and 5 minutes as observer. So in that 50, and what you can do, my invitation is that you would actually use the same three cards in that first round. So it's a 15-minute round, and you would all use the same three cards. Or you could get super brave and just in the moment pick another three cards and just go, right, okay, there's another three. This time I now have a random invitation to develop stamina to deal with shit. Point one, decolonial card. Then there's the listening bias, the solutioner. So somebody that's always looking to make solutions instead of actually listening generatively, alongside then a call to self-reflective responsibility. So someone else might then in that moment go down their rabbit hole for 5 minutes around what those three cards mean to them. I'm just wondering what this feels like. For me, it feels really quite freeing to be able to have that brave space to talk about decolonizing our minds whilst practicing generative listening, deep, soulful, expansive, exponential listening for the thinker and for ourselves. And just think what ground you could cover in just 15 minutes with three people, just 15 minutes. And that'd be that's very scary. That's Apple listening in. So that's just one example of what I was thinking about with this decolonizing our minds through generative listening. And the only other step I would add in then is if it's online or even in a big group, what you would do is then bring the groups together for a period of time, 10, 15 minutes to share insights that popped, realizations, any other questions that come out of going through this experience together. So that's the idea. I would love your thoughts. I'd love your feedback. It's been a bit of a challenging day in other areas for me in my mind and in my experience, but this feels meaningful, really feels meaningful. Decolonizing our minds through generative listening, a weave of the Gesturing Towards Decolonial Future cards, and a weave with Jane Adshead-Grant's listening deck, listening cards. What do you think? I think there's some pretty powerful learning, sharing, and new ways of being that could come out of this. Let me know what you think. As always, you can subscribe for updates at hexochangenow.com if you're curious to hear any more of my own thinking, blogs, poems, live stream conversations that are happening. And as always, I'm really keen to serve and work with mission-driven founders, co-founders, CEOs, and senior leaders that are really looking to reimagine their connection to themselves, to one another, and to systems at large. And hope to hear from you. Again, my name's Gary Turner, founder of Hexochange, and hope to speak to you soon. Do let me know what you think.